And we go live. Hopefully, it all works. Is there no one? Yes, we are online. And thank you guys for waiting. Sorry, it takes time to go online. Thank you, Frank, for doing this. I can't tell you how happy I was to get your reply because there are so many people who I write to help the current Indian generation, and you were so gracious and you were pretty prompt with your replies. And I'm really, really grateful to you to be here today. And also, it's early in the morning in New York. You're in Florida or New York? Where do you?
I'm in Florida, yeah, on the Eastern time. It's not too early. It's 9:30. I've been up and at it for a couple hours here. But I just want to acknowledge you, Rashna. I'm grateful to be here. Our message has reached, a global audience. I get a lot of young men. I'm assuming today we're speaking predominantly to an Indian-based
Correct.
audience.
Right.
So our YouTube channel has really grown over the last 2 years, and I do get a lot of young men that comment on the videos there, or maybe message me on Instagram. So I'm grateful to be here today, to serve you, to serve the audience, to serve the men, to serve the women, and it sounds like that there is a need to speak to maybe the younger generation. So I'm grateful to be here, and anywhere that you need me to go today to provide value to the audience, I'm an open book, and
That
I'm all yours.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Let me just briefly introduce you. So, you're known as the number one porn addiction recovery coach. You're a CEO and founder of Rebuild Recovery, a podcast host of The Superhuman Life, a certified men's recovery coach. So, let me start with my first question. How did you get into this?
Wow, Rashna, that's a fantastic question. I think it's a great place to start, right? Because I don't think anybody wakes up one day and is like, yeah, I want to get into the world of helping men overcome porn addiction. It's not what you put on your college application or your high school, dream job kind of thing. What I'm doing today, everything from the podcast to the YouTube channels to building and launching Rebuild Recovery. This has been a product of number one, my own struggles with pornography, getting out of it first, and then realizing that there was an opportunity.
Right.
So not to take the entire conversation today, but I've always been driven. I've always been somebody that was seeking more out of life. Whether you want to call it a high performance, kind of a motivated individual. And this got me into bodybuilding like at a very young age, around 18, 19 years old. I fell in love with the sport of bodybuilding. From a training aspect, first, like I just wanted to be able to overcome some insecurities that I had when I was when I was a younger boy. But then I also got into the competing side of things around my mid 20s. So I've always chased more. I've always chased like leveling up, whether it was seeking information in the bodybuilding space or seeking knowledge to grow myself. As you can see behind me here, there's a few hundred books. These just aren't for show. Like I got into personal development at a very young age because I had a lot of questions out of life. And I say all this, Rishna, because I think it's important for people to understand like it doesn't matter what you're pursuing. It doesn't matter how successful your life may appear on the outside. Like I said, I competed at bodybuilding at a very high level, had multiple businesses that were producing a lot of income, and from the outside my life looked like it was very, very successful, but
Right.
inside I was struggling. Inside there was a lot of darkness. Inside there was a lot of depression and anxiety because I had been caught up in a porn addiction for almost 20 years at that point. So one of my biggest missions here is to educate the younger generation, because I think that pornography addiction is something that we don't really understand the depths of what actually is happening
Right.
to the world, and to our young boys, and to the young women as well. So to answer your question, Rashna, I overcome my own personal porn addiction on February 14th of 2019, and that was about 20 years of me struggling with this. So this was a little over 3 years ago. Once I got on the other side of it, 3 or 4 months post quitting, I began to see the world a whole lot differently. For one, my brain began to reboot, rewire. So literally, the world looked a lot different to me. But then I felt a call. So I'm a man of faith. I placed my faith number one in my life. I felt I got a call from God, and it was like, there's an opportunity for you to launch a podcast here because people need to hear this message. So I got into it just to share a message with the world. I'm like, hey, I struggled for a long time. I thought I had answers to success, but I didn't. It wasn't until I was able to get pornography out of my life that some of the secrets to success began to reveal themselves to me. So first, it started with a mission of like sharing my story, but then over a couple of months, that turned into what has now become rebuilt recovery because men started reaching out to me. So I
Right.
got into this because I shared my story of recovery. And then by me putting my message out there in a vulnerable way, other men started to reach out to me like, hey, we love what you're sharing, but we're struggling. Can you help us? And now here we are, 2.5 years into this thing. We've had an incredible track record. Over 3,000 men have gone through our books, courses, coaching, and programs. And we successfully worked with about 160 to 165 men inside of our one-on-one coaching program, which is really where we can make a lot of progress with the men. So yeah, I overcome my porn addiction 3+ years ago, and now my life is committed to helping other men.
Wow. Okay. So how many years were you addicted to porn?
Yeah, that's my entire life. So for me, early exposure was around 6 or 7. So for some
Really?
context for the audience, I'm 30, I'm 38, I'll be 39 in a couple months. So when I saw it at that young age, it was by accident, right? I was going through dad's drawers, kind of being a nosy little kid. You stumbled across this magazine underneath the socks. And I think back then it was just a curiosity. It's like, oh, these pictures of women make me feel different than when I look at a picture of like my sister or when I look at a picture of like another woman. So there
Mm,
was a curiosity component.
mm,
Um, and then because of at my age there wasn't the internet, so it didn't really become a major problem for me, Rashna, until probably my early 20s. This would have been the early 2000s when internet streaming, pornography really became an issue. So I struggled with a porn addiction for 20 years. I struggled with a technology porn addiction for probably about 12 of
wow.
those years.
And what was the impact that it had on your life?
Oh man, it's so much, right? I think number one, as somebody that is a believer and lives their life by some moral code, we understand that it's wrong, and I'm not here to Bible thump anybody, but if you have a set of values and moral principles that you live your life by, and this isn't aligned with that, that begins to eat away at your conscience. So that you're not supposed to be doing something, yet you show up and do it every single day. That eats away at the soul of an individual. So it begins to deteriorate on
Right.
the inside. Now that can obviously lead you to some depression, anxiety due to the cognitive dissonance, and that's really began to show up in my life. I didn't struggle with accomplishing things. I was a driven individual. I was able to succeed in bodybuilding. I was able to succeed in launching businesses. So a lot of the impact that I hear from men today that are not motivated, I didn't struggle with that. For me, the impact came on the inside of how it made me feel, of how it separated me from who I ultimately was meant to be and separated me from real, meaningful relationships. So I dealt with anxiety, I dealt with depression, I dealt with suicidal thoughts for a long time. And I wasn't able to connect it back until I got on the other side of my porn addiction. And it's okay. I'll be completely vulnerable here as well. I did struggle with some sexual issues as well. This isn't something that a lot of men would be willing and open to discuss about. But porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Over time, you begin to condition yourself
Mm,
that the only path to erection and orgasm is the path through pornography. So when you go to get be intimate with a partner or a wife or anybody in real life, you can't get it up. And so I definitely suffered from some sexual performance issues.
oh, wow. Okay. So, but so many of you, like, is it you're in the US, right? Is it very
Hmm.
common there as much as it is in India? You think, do you get any international clients or do you generally deal with only Americans?
No, we've worked with men in every continent other than in Antarctica. No, so this is a global issue.
Okay.
Um, I think the U.S., if anything, probably is dealing with it at a higher degree than some of these other nations, right? We're going through a spiritual crisis in our country at this time, and the separation of that, the sexual revolution, just the way that the media and everybody is portraying like freedom through sexual immorality. Like we know this isn't right. So yeah, I mean it's a major problem here in the U.S., but we've worked with men in the U.S., South America, Africa. I've had clients in India, Australia, the UK. It's a global issue, Rishna.
So you basically built a team now to help all the people who connect with you, basically.
Yeah, right now there's a small team of us. One of our goals over the next 6 to 12 months is really build out our coaching roster. So a lot of the team is kind of behind the scenes with tech work, with design, with graphics. I'm doing a vast majority of the coaching still today. So at least when people come into the program, they're getting to work with me. But we are in the process of building out a coaching team, which will just allow us to
Right.
have a deeper impact and a much bigger impact around the world.
So let's begin, because most of the time people do not realize when they start young that what exactly happens when you watch porn. So can you start with the basic concept that what exactly is the impact of porn?
Yeah, that's a great question. And where I try to take a lot of this question is understanding the impact that it's having on the brain, right? Because if we can understand how pornography is hijacking our brain, hijacking our reward system, and hijacking our dopamine, just like other drugs, then we begin to see the real danger with even consuming it 1 or 2 times. Internet streaming pornography. So I'm not talking about the magazine that I stumbled across when I was 6 years old. I'm talking about what our young boys have access to today. This is on the internet. This is the infinite amount of pornography that is readily available for us. This
Okay.
is what's defined in the neuroscience world as a super normal stimulus. So if we understand, let's just, we don't have to have a deep understanding of dopamine, but dopamine is a neurochemical and it is released when we're in the pursuit of our goals. So if we can look at dopamine as there's a line of dopamine, and every stimulus either creates a spike or a dip based on what type of stimulus that on. A pleasure-based stimulus will create a spike in dopamine. A pain-focused stimulus will create a dip into the pain side of things because dopamine does work in a cycle. Being that it's a super normal stimulus, and all this means is that the response that you get from watching pornography is super normal, meaning it cannot be replicated in the natural world. So what ends up happening, Rishna, is first, second exposure, you've created on the pleasure side of things a super normal level of dopamine. So your brain now knows, okay, if I want dopamine, I could go get dopamine in the pursuit of my goals, working towards launching a business, launching a podcast, going to the gym to get healthy. But that's going to get me to like a level 3. If I go look at pornography, I'll get to a level 10. So it begins to hijack your reward system, begins to
Mm.
hijack your dopamine to where you're only going to get hits of dopamine in the pursuit of more pornography. And what this happens because dopamine is tied to motivation. It's meant to be a chemical that is released in the pursuit of our goals. So first, second exposure, the guy's now established a new baseline of dopamine in his brain. Over time, that gets higher and higher and higher. And this is what's known as the desensitization effect. Anybody that has ever done any type of drugs or drink alcohol understands this. The first sip of alcohol or the first time you do a hardcore drug, you get a massive spike. You're never able to reach that. Again, this is why you need more hardcore drugs, or this is why you need harder liquor, or this is why in pornography you start with one type of genre, very casual, vanilla type of sex, but 3, 6 months, a year into this thing, you're watching videos that you wouldn't even be able to sit in the room if it was taking place. And I don't want to get too graphic there. I'll let people's imaginations roll with that to kind of understand what it is I'm talking about. But this puts people in the place where, because you've established a new baseline, your brain can only get to that point with more intense, or more hardcore. This takes you down the rabbit hole of like, why am I even watching these things that I'm not morally right? So
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question there, but
Yeah, I've
it
read about
hijacks the reward
something
system.
called Delta FOSB. Do you know anything about that? That it's a partner with the dopamine and they partner up, and that's why people cannot stop their addiction. Have you researched into that?
What is this? Delta
Yeah,
FOSB?
yeah. So I was just reading up a little bit because I'm not a sex therapist, right? So I was just reading up on that, and it was very interesting that dopamine doesn't work alone. It has a partner called FOSB. So it basically, that's one of the reasons that we it's that one has a difficulty letting go of porn addiction. So maybe later on, because you're building a team, you can look into it, and
Yeah.
that could also help you help the children better. Now, like
Yeah,
you
no,
said,
absolutely. Yeah,
that you
thank
don't
you for
want to
sharing
get
that.
very into the graphics of it, and there are so many genres of porn, but the like I'm very new to like most of the followers know that I'm extremely new to internet, as in YouTube and Insta. I used to have Facebook, and I've just come into this because I all of a sudden realized India needs so much help with mental health. And
Mm,
for someone like me, by the way, I'm 51, and I come from,
wow.
yeah, from generations ahead, right? So for me to speak so openly about something which hardly existed during my time, we didn't even have Playboys or stuff like that growing up. We never had magazines and stuff. We didn't know what porn was when we grew up. My first ever, when I went to Amsterdam and I switched on the TV, and I'm like, what am I just watching? I was maybe 25 or something. And that was the first time I looked at something called porn. And I didn't even know what it was called at that time. So now when I just started counseling, emotional counseling, I get so many children from mostly above 16 who are stuck in this rut. They cannot study, they cannot function because now internet is so freely available, and they keep watching one porn to the next genre. And the worst is because India is, uh, I will not like to compare with any of the cultures abroad because each one to their own. It's not like looking up or down or being judgmental about any culture. But Indian culture, generally, we are very family oriented. We go as we are, from the time we are born, we are taught to care for our family. We are taught to care for our brothers and sisters. We are taught to care for our parents. When they are old, we look after them. I don't know if I don't know if you have any Indian friends, but there is some, there is the festival called Raksha Bandhan, where we tie a thread like this, something where the sister ties the thread, and there's another one in different cultures, like the brother protects the sister. Okay, so, but nowadays, I get so many inquiries where the brothers are having incestuous thoughts about the sisters. And literally, my skin crawls. Never in my wildest dreams, I could ever think a brother could think like that about the sister. Never in my wildest dreams. Yes, one odd case you have heard that the father molests the daughters, and maybe sometimes there is, because of Freud or something, there is this whole thing going on where the mother and son have the, but otherwise in India, brother sister bond, father daughter bond, mother son bond is like, it's so precious and it's so beautiful, and it's not all, but most of the time. So when I heard this, there are times on my stream I've cried. I'm like, I can't believe this. If we cannot trust our own families, if a sister cannot sleep without worrying that the brother is coming so close at night because he's getting a hard on, it's all because of they are watching porn. Because during our time also we had brothers and sisters. And of course you cannot completely blame porn for it, because where is your responsibility? Don't you Aren't you responsible for where your life is headed? You are supposed to be one family. The whole world as it is, as a guy, I don't know, but we women in India, or most women, are objectified, right? When we are young, people look at us. If you, especially in India, if you wear a short skirt, if you, it's a cultural thing, right? Now it's progressing, but since time, like long time back also, if what I'm wearing is also considered very progressive. Forget shorts, okay, just showing my shoulders also in some cultures is a big deal. So including all of India, like some cities is okay, even though it's the 21st century. So my issue with the boys today is that, okay, I understand that you're getting carried away with porn, but at least leave your family alone. So this is the problem, the genre that you're talking, that you didn't want to talk. I want you to talk about it. I want you to get into this and get it into their damn heads that you don't understand what it can do to your careers, to your life, to your family, and how much it can ruin you completely. It will leave you with nothing, because they are only, their center of the universe has become this porn, right? Because the porn industry doesn't care whether it's your sister or it's, they want. And in India, once upon a time, if you're married to your husband, and you have a father-in-law, the husband's father, it was considered like a respectable thing. But nowadays there are videos surrounding the father-in-law and the daughter-in-law making, like, now that's another genre. That's, I mean, they're not leaving anything. But then we are not supposed to. I mean, if family does that, what else is remaining? That they're breaking all barriers of, like you said, morality, right? Like you said that you were also a man of God. Forget, let's leave God aside, because each one believes or not believes. But family is such a beautiful thing. At least I believe that we are supposed to care for each other and protect. What's your take on this?
Yeah, Rishna, you're speaking to so many important points here. I think pointing the finger at young boys here is a disservice, and here's why. Um, they're not they're not prepared. They're not able to handle. One things I try to get across anytime I have an opportunity to speak to an audience of parents or an older generation that is in charge of leading the younger generation is we must understand that we're living in a world right now that there will come a time in every single young boy's life when his eyes see something his brain is not yet developed to handle. So the male brain isn't fully developed until what, 25, 26, 27 years
Right.
old, kind of depending on the
Yeah.
different research. Female brain somewhere between 22,
Right.
23. So they're getting exposed to this thing. The average age of first exposure is 10, 11 years old, and this drastically falling lower and lower and lower and lower. So their eyes are seeing something their brain is not yet developed to handle. It's not their job to understand that and fix that. It's the parents, it's the older generation, it's the men that are leading that society or that family that number one need to make sure they have their behavior under control first, because the boys aren't going to be able to do it. If the boys have men though that will have the conversation with them before they see it, when they see it, and then help them out of it, that's where the change is going to take place. There's a term in neuroscience known as what fires together wires together. So you hit the nail on the head, right, when you said that these porn sites are literally conditioning and indoctrinating our boys that incest, sleeping with your sister, sleeping with your brother, is an okay thing. These are genres. You and I both know it. You talked about it. Anybody watching this that just has been on any porn site will know dad sleeps with daughter, uncle sleeps with niece. All
Right.
these terms are
Right.
literally like some of the top search terms in the
Mhm.
world. So we get these young boys, 11, 12 years old. This is what they're exposed to. That then becomes what is now their sex education. So you have the young brain knows that physically, when I see this, it makes me feel a certain way. Then they see this as education. Oh, if this is what they're doing, then that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Right.
their brain is literally being conditioned and wired and programmed that, oh, when I feel this certain way, I don't even need to go to the video anymore. I'll just go to my sister's room because she's laying right there. It's conditioning the behavior literally in right in front of our eyes. How do
Mm.
we get out of this? Like I said, it's got to start with the men of the
Right.
society first stepping up.
Correct.
Okay, men like myself that are going to lead the charge, men that are struggling with this them first. Because if you have a dad that is caught up in his behavior and his son is now getting exposed to these things, is that father going to be able to go lead that son out of it? No, because that message will not be received by the son. He's going to see much more than what he hears. So the fathers, the men of the world, must first step up, get this out of their lives, realize that there's no place in the world for this, and then begin to fight it, whether it's through leading their families, through leading the charge, through building smaller groups, through joining Rebuilt Recovery, becoming one of our coaches, or whatever. But no, I'm right there with you. This is why I'm as adamant about getting this message out there on shows and podcasts. This is why I coach little league boys teams. Like, I'm not a father, but I want to be an example of what a strong man is in young boys' lives. So I work with 10, 11, and 12-year-old boys. I coach their little league team. We're not talking about pornography at all. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there for them to see an example of what a strong male is, or what a strong man in their life can be, so that when they see something that maybe doesn't make them feel the right way, or when they see something that no, they shouldn't have, they feel safe to go have a conversation with somebody. So the men must step up first, get it out of their lives, and then they must provide a safe place where they can have conversations with the next generation. And I
Mm.
think that is the way that we're going to be able to combat this. But it's going to be a long process because, like you said, it's had a major impact. not just on the boys, but on the families, on society, and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. My point is, when I speak, like, there is so much, when they give sex ed in school, shouldn't pornography be part of the sex education? Because if you start early and give them that this is what happens if you watch porn and this is how it's going to impact your life, because in sex education all they tell you boys, girls, be birds and bees. But if
Yeah.
everybody gets to know what exactly happens and how it pulls you in, because most of them are addicted because of this very reason. They don't know, like you said, there's no one to guide them. So
Yeah.
do you think that schools and colleges can also guide, besides the fact that let's assume that parents, you see, parents always hesitate, especially in India. They're very shy to talk to our children, to talk about sex. And anytime, even like a simple question, where do babies come from? Most parents cannot answer that question. Do you think it makes sense for schools and colleges to do this?
Yeah, this may be a culture thing. No, I don't want other people having those conversations with my children. I don't have children. If I did, I wouldn't want another person having that conversation. I think that's the parents' responsibility. Once again, I don't know if this is a culture thing, and maybe I'm gonna cross a line here. But if you brought a human being into this world and you're not willing to have some of the most important conversations with them, that's irresponsible, in my opinion. That's irresponsible for a parent not to have that conversation with their kids. Why would you leave that in the hands of somebody else? That's your child. That's yours.
True.
You have that conversation. Yeah, should there be better education in the schools for it? Perhaps, maybe. I'm completely against the government schooling system here in the U.S. These are just my opinions. You guys over there probably have a better system than what we do. I don't want teachers currently in the U.S. having these conversations. I don't know how much you guys see on the news right now, what's going on inside
Right.
of our schools. In my opinion, those people aren't equipped and prepared to have these conversations. To answer your question, Rishna, no, I think that is the responsibility of the parents, and I think that this needs to be addressed within the home first.
Okay, I'll tell you what, okay, why I said this. In India, the children cannot even tell their parents, most, I'm not saying all, okay, whenever I speak, please understand it's not like 100% of India, but most
Mm-hmm.
children are can't even speak to their parents. They are forced to take uh, even their educational decisions are taken by the parents. And I get clients, kids coming to me, ma'am, we don't want to give this competitive exam. Ma'am, we are not cut out for it, but we don't have the guts to tell our parents. Even something so crucial as their career decisions are taken by their parents. Forget talking about sex. You know what happens when there is someone kissing on the screen? First, in India, many years back, they used to show two flowers. Okay. And even now in India, public display of affection is not allowed most places. If you're caught holding hands or hugging or kissing, you'll get into trouble. Not all places, but quite a few. And even in movie theaters, if someone is kissing, the first thing a parent will do is close the child's eyes. This is this is the cultural thing. That's why I'm saying that it rather come from the school, college, because parents are like, oh my god, how can we? They'll blush and they don't know. In my house, it's different because we discuss everything. We
Mm-hmm.
discuss because I come from a different mindset, maybe because I'm a counselor, and I don't want to find out from others what my child is doing, whether they are drinking or whether she's dating. Everything, I need to know what my daughter is doing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting though. So what's your opinion on this? Like you've grown up in that culture, so you understand the one argument that it's the education, but then you're telling me because it's in your household, because you're a mindset coach, like you understand that it's something that needs to be had in the home. So I'm curious, like what is your thoughts
Yeah,
around
so
this?
this is the problem. You see, there are parents like me who are open and right. That's why many of them, many of the children say they wish they had a parent like me. But then, even many a times, sorry to say, but I agree. I'm also prude on many topics. It took me a long time to get here. Let me. I had to build myself up, and my daughter would, like, I didn't know what it meant, like what is bisexuality. I didn't know what is, like, till like couple of years back, I didn't know what is LGBTQ community. I actually didn't know, because we are like in our own trip. Yeah. And recently I had someone over for a podcast, and I asked the questions which I always wanted to know. And I told them clearly that we are so lost. We are a generation in India. We are like far behind the Western world, because we're learning about things. And yes, we will grow into it. We are progressing, but we are still not there yet. So I feel,
Yeah.
yeah, please go ahead.
So I think it needs to be then attacked on both sides though. I think
Right.
having, for you guys having something in the education system that in the interim is going to provide the education to the kids. But I think we got to start like speaking to the parents, right? We got to start empowering your generation. We got to start empowering the parents that they can grow in this mindset. They can evolve. Like
Right.
I'm not standing here because I didn't put in the work. Like I've read thousands of books in my life. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my own education. I've worked with coaches and mentors, and still do to this day. And that's the same thing with you. Like you're where you're at because you've been willing to put in the work. So yeah, maybe for you guys there needs to be something in the education, but at the same time, let's start helping the parents. Let's start giving them the tools to change their mindset. Let's start giving them the tools to have these conversations. Once again, like I'm gonna speak directly to the parents here. If you bring a human being, another child, into this world, and you can't have the most important conversations, that is irresponsible. That is your child.
True, true.
Like, yeah, and I can understand the society and how your governments and everything in the school is a part of raising the children. But at the end of the day, man, like you said it, those are your kids.
Even
You
like
should be
marriage decisions, the parents mostly take that decision also, who's going to be your life partner. In today itself, I had a case, and they're from different religions, and they're like, we cannot marry if our parents won't agree. It's that difficult here in our
yeah.
families. In our family, the internationalities, I don't know, inter everything, but it's actually the truth. So that's what I'm,
Mhm.
and many a times the reason I get you on podcast, and there was even Dr. Trish who came, who's a neuroscientist, scientist, and she was discussing how the brain works in porn. And the
Mhm.
whole reason I'm doing it, because at least today's generation can understand. If their parents can't understand, at least let them see what porn does to them. Because
Yeah.
almost 80% of the guys, the children who come to me, are stuck in porn addiction. And that's why I thought of talking to you, because no parent watches my video. Because no, till I didn't get into YouTube, I use YouTube only for watching songs. I didn't know YouTube had podcasts and stuff. So I don't blame them. I come from that generation. I didn't know there is so much content and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So whenever something they don't, when the children say, "Ma'am, my parents are not listening," I said, take a snapshot of, or take a record my video and send it to them, that someone of their age is saying that, maybe, just maybe, they will listen. Like this podcast, I hope parents, if you're listening, please talk to your children about sex education. Not just, they are, of course, I want you all to talk to them about their careers, who they want to marry, but this is also a very important topic, because you don't want to, hide from the, basically these are topics, like you said, this is life changing, right? If they're hiding behind your back and watching pornography like you did. Oh, tell me something, considering you are from the US, didn't your parents come to know that you were into porn and stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I initially stumbled across it, when I was 6 or 7 years old, like I stole the magazine, and I think my mom probably ended up finding it like somewhere underneath the socks or something, like in one of my drawers, and it was like, don't ever do that again. For me, because I didn't have the internet till I was an adult, like so there was nobody. There's by that point there was nobody parenting me. So through my teenage years, like I didn't struggle with it in the same degree that the boys are today. I didn't have a phone or a tablet that I could go access. There were only these magazines. So maybe I would steal from the dad. I'd go look into it. We'd steal one from the convenience store and then take it outside in the woods. So it wasn't as major of a problem. By 21, 22, I was already out in the real world. I was making a lot of money. I was on my own. That's when the internet really became a major problem. First BlackBerry device, I had it on my phone. Now with me 24/7, a week. But No, it never became a problem, I guess, from the parents. I was in relationships where, like girlfriends and stuff would catch it and then be like, don't ever do this again. Rishna, it got so bad that in my 30s, I had a secret laptop because I'd been caught by women so many times on my phone or on my computer, literally. So I was an at-home entrepreneur, so I had a home office, multiple, computers on my desk at all times, and then in the closet in my office was a completely separate laptop. So anytime I was going to watch pornography, I used that computer
Wow.
because I know Stephanie, who was my girlfriend at the time, would
Mm.
never think to go look in this computer. Oh, it's just maybe it was an old laptop. It maybe had some stored files on there. So the parents were never a problem because I didn't have the internet when I was with my parents. With
Okay.
girlfriends, though, it became a problem because I was just hiding it, and I became very, very good at this. And this is
Oh,
something that you'll notice in all addicts, right? Is their ability to lie, hide things to others, but more importantly, to themselves. This begins to really eat away at the
okay.
inside.
But I mean, I've read that you get erectile dysfunction, right? Because you watch so much porn, so it affects
Hmm.
relationships. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I talked about that at the beginning. Yeah, that was definitely
Yeah.
something
So
that I
can you
experienced.
elaborate a little bit what exactly happens so these boys understand that when they get into relationships, watch out because can it be fixed? Also, that is another point I would like to ask. So first, how does it how do you get this issue of erectile dysfunction and how to fix it?
Yeah, so it's just conditioned over time. Like that when you like video, screen, woman, erection, masturbation, release. Like that's what you wire. What fires together wires together. So you begin to create this pattern. Like this is the path to me getting an erection and a release. So when you're in the act of intimacy, like you can't get it up. You, Dr. Trish would probably be able to explain a little bit better underneath the hood from the mechanism, but that is the behavioral that is causing it. Now, how do you get out of it? You got to stop the consuming of pornography. Number one, so you have to allow your brain to unwire. You have to create new neural pathways. You have to reboot, rewire. Then you have to be intentional about recreating intimacy. If you're not married and you're struggling with a porn addiction, stop having sex. Go as long as you possibly can. For me, that's been over 3 years because I'm not married. Like, if you are married, I would still recommend going maybe 60 to 90 days without it to allow your body to fully readjust. But then you have to be intentional about recreating that intimacy. Now, if it's impacted your hormones, you need to see a doctor and get some hormone replacement therapy. But I think getting a healthy man is a product of intentional training program. We'll look at his nutrition as well. But I think the cutting off of it, allowing your brain to fully reboot and reset, going on a sex fast, I do think that is a big part of it. So 60 to 90 days without, that's where a lot of guys struggle. Is like they're like, I'm gonna go quit porn today, but then they're sleeping with somebody like 3 days
Right.
later. They haven't allowed their body to kind of fully reset and readjust. So yes, you can heal from it, you can recover. You just have to be willing to let the process unfold. That's a problem with a lot of men that are caught up in a porn addiction is they want everything right now. It's all instant gratification, instant gratification. It may take 3 months, it may take 6 months, it may take a year, but it's your own doing. Like you didn't get a porn addiction, you didn't get erectile dysfunction overnight. So to think that the solution to fix it is going to happen overnight is a false belief. So cut off the consumption, reboot, rewire, get healthy, intentional about your nutrition, about your training program, begin to pursue goals in your life, and then be intentional about recreating intimacy with your wife or partner.
Lots of children who are actually in porn addiction many a times are running away from their studies, from their career because the stress is so much. They're using it as a stress reliever. What do you have to say for this? How do they overcome this part?
I wouldn't say that they're running to it from due to stress. I would say that they're avoiding their work because their motivation has been hijacked. This is all dopamine, right?
Yeah.
Dopamine is a chemical that's meant to be when released when we're in the pursuit of our goals. So if we have goals for school to achieve a certain uh, grade that's going to take us on to the next stage of our career or to university, that's the goal. We should be motivated to go study to do the test because we're going to get hits of dopamine. But when I talked about at the beginning how porn hijacks your dopamine, so instead of going to do these things, I'm just going to go watch more porn because it's going to make me feel a whole lot better. Doing this work, getting 2 hits of dopamine where porn's going to give me 10
Right.
is like, obviously I'm going to go over here. How do you get out of this? It's hard, right? Like I think everybody's looking for the easy answer. Like you have to be intentional about doing your work. This is where we help our guys like create some small wins first thing in the morning. Like if you could start your day with moving towards your goal, so having small little morning routines and begin to stack those wins, you begin to build the confidence in yourself. Like, oh, I can actually do these little things. So I would say get porn out of your life, number one. Create small little plans. Like, okay, so if you can't study because it seems too big, study for 10 minutes, study for 15 minutes. Like I think saying like I'm gonna study for 3 hours could be overwhelming. Set aside 10 minutes first. Get that done. Acknowledge yourself. Dude, you just did what you said you're gonna do. Then bump it up to 15 minutes, then up to 20 minutes. But start small. If we're not doing anything, we have to create small little goals for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, that's what you said, right? Is we're not doing the things that we know we're supposed to be doing. It could be study, it could be cleaning our house, it could be cooking a dinner, it could be anything. But if we're not doing those things, we have to be able to dissect that and break it down to something very, very small that we can do. And then acknowledge ourselves for doing that. And then over time, begin to build up that confidence and reputation. Hey, you actually do the things that you say you're going to do.
So, do you recommend if they cannot give up pornography completely, start small? Same this way, the way you're saying, do different goals. How about they start with they don't do it for one day, then 2 days or 1 week or 2 weeks, and then is that okay if they wean off slowly?
Well, I think it needs to be completely off. But yeah, if you can't go one day without consuming pornography, make that your goal first. Say like if you haven't been able to go an entire day in the last 9 months, like all you need to like you don't set the goal of like I'm trying to go 100 days or I'm trying to go forever. Start by going tomorrow without it, and then have that win, and then say, dude, you did it. Now just do that again. Do that again. There's an amazing book out right now. It literally was just launched a couple of weeks ago by Ed Mylett, who's one of the world's most inspirational motivational speakers. It's called The Power of One More. The entire book is about literally taking your life one day at a time. This is the path to recovery from anything. If you're struggling with alcohol, you just need to be sober for one more day. If you're struggling with a drug addiction at the beginning, you just need to go one day without your drug. Book out right now. Somebody that is really, really struggling, go one day without pornography, and then figure out, okay, what did I do in that day and what things did I not do, and then replicate that for the second day, and then replicate that for the third day. And if you do that enough over time, you'll be like, dude, I've gone a month now. Now I'm beginning to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn. But no, I don't think if you're watching porn 8 hours, going to 4 hours or 2 hours a day would be a good thing. I think it's got to be complete, cut out of it, but then yeah, take it one day at a time.
Right. Like, would you tell us a little bit more erectile dysfunction and what else are the side effects if you watch too much porn? What else happens?
Yeah, I mean, the cognitive dissonance because you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. That's where it eats away at your soul, your conscious. This can lead to depression or anxiety. The social anxiety, like the inability to look a woman in the eyes, the inability to create meaningful relationships. I think that's a big one. So pornography places people in your life as objects.
Right.
People are not meant to be objects. You talked about it in the beginning. Like you said, every woman in your country, like if she wears a short enough skirt, she's going to be objectified. I don't think that's okay. Like women are beautiful and they're meant to be, but they're beautiful for us to appreciate and accept that and acknowledge it, but not objectify them and participate in them. But what pornography does, because what wires together, is in the act of consuming people. Like you're consuming them as objects. You're training yourself that people become objects in your life. So I think the inability to create real, deep, meaningful relationships is probably one of the biggest negative impacts that it has on men's lives.
True. So I think most of the time when you tell these kids that the boys that don't to give up porn, generally it goes with don't masturbate. What is your suggestion? Because I'm not too sure, but I have seen so many videos and I've done some basic research. It doesn't mean that you don't masturbate at all, right? What is your take? Is it like completely they you don't look at porn and masturbate. Is it okay to masturbate if they want a release or something? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, um, in my eyes, masturbation is meant to be done. Maybe in a marriage with a partner. I have a tough one with this because I'm still trying to process and understand this. If you're struggling with a porn addiction, though, you need to learn the ability to control your physical temptation. You need to learn to control your sexual desire. So just like I said, if you're married, like go on a sex fast, 60, 90 days without. Like, don't think that you're going to quit porn and masturbate tomorrow and that's going to solve your problem because you're just replacing it with something else. You'll find something else to give you the exposure or to give you the stimulus that you need. At the bottom of all of this is a porn addiction is lack of self-control and lack of self-discipline and leadership. So we need to grow that and develop that skill. And how do you develop that skill? Denying yourself of masturbation, denying yourself of
Mm.
releasing. So yeah, in a short term, I think it's important to get away from it. And then what you do after you've rebooted and rewired, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I've done a couple podcasts though with a few male, experts, health experts.
Mm.
There's an optimal cycle for male ejaculation. So if you're doing it every day, it's a problem. If you need it every day, that's a problem. But I think men need to learn to control their physical desires.
And when you did that podcast with the physical health, what did they say? Once a week? Once in 2 weeks? What is the general? Is there
Yeah,
like,
there's a formula that's based upon your age, and then you subtract it from like 180, and then you divide it. So I don't recall it directly.
maybe you can
Um,
share the podcast with me? I'll share it with the link so that they can
yeah, I'll
understand.
send it. I'll send it to you. It was the one I did with Dave Asprey. So it was a while back, but it's somewhere in the middle. Um, on average, it's going to be somewhere between like every 2 to 4 weeks for most men.
Okay, because I like to,
Younger men is more frequent. The older you get, the less frequent you need it.
yes, of course. Anyways, your testosterone level declines. So I guess the desire also declines with it, I'm guessing. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. So tell me about these no fap groups. Are there any of any consequence? Should people join them? What is your take?
What are these on?
No fap groups where they
No
don't,
fap groups.
yeah, where they don't masturbate. There are these so many on Facebook, Insta, Telegram, like these boys join these groups because they don't want to masturbate. And these are like support groups of sorts. Have you heard of them? No fab groups? No?
I have. It's funny because like I wasn't aware about any of this until I already got into like coaching men out of
Okay.
pornography addiction. Here's the thing, Rishna, is I don't think quitting porn and not masturbating like actually improves your life. I think it's the work you do in the process of quitting and becoming the man that is no longer addicted to porn that creates the change in your life. Repeat that again. Quitting porn doesn't improve the quality of your life. It's the work you do on yourself while quitting porn that improves the quality of your life. So where I see the problem with something like a no-fap group, just a bunch of guys that aren't going to masturbate, well, what are you doing? Like, how are you getting any better? The men that we work with, we actually provide them with tools and tactics and strategies to improve all the areas of their life. Realize that you're running to pornography because there's something missing in your life. There's a problem in your life that you're not able to solve and fix. So you're running to pornography as the escape outlet, or you're running to pornography as the pacifier for your life. So quitting that, but not solving the problem in your life, is not going to produce a good outcome for you. If anything, you're just going to run to another addiction. You're going to get caught up in another compulsive behavior. So my take on all these groups is they're a waste of time. They're pointless. Yeah, is it good to have people that you're doing, things with? Absolutely. We have group coaching in our program, but it's intentional because we're actually looking at improving our life. If you think that, hey, I'm going to stop watching porn and masturbating for the next 30 days and my life is going to dramatically turn around, but you didn't change anything about how you were showing up every day, brother, you're going to be let down. And like I said, more often than not, those guys that just do that for 30 days, at the end of the 30 days, because they didn't change anything about themselves, fall right back into the same pattern of behavior.
And if anyone wants to, do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have So I didn't even know that. Okay. So maybe you
Okay.
can give me your link. I can tag you in this video. So whoever wants to follow you and basically ask your help for or join your support groups and get some. So okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the YouTube channel is so it's the same as my Instagram. It's Coach Frank Rich.
Okay.
We do 14 videos a week right now. So 2 videos every single day. One longer form video, somewhere between 5, 7, 10 minutes long, and then one short under 60 seconds. And then I have a free book is as well. If anybody's out there is maybe struggling right now and wants to take some steps towards overcoming this, if they go to www.the7stepguide.com, I'll put it in the chat box for you here in a minute. They can just put their name and email in and download the book. It's absolutely free.
Maybe you can send it to me on Insta. I'll add it to the YouTube because from Zoom it will, or you can just give it to me here. I can just post it right now.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat box.
Let me copy it. So just when we are addicted to cigarettes or drinking or something, generally there are some kind of nicotine patches or stuff like that. Is there something for, say, porn addiction? Is there something children can do?
Yeah, I mean,
Is there
this is a
something?
tough one. It's a tough one again, right? Because like anytime I get a young man to reach out to me, my first response is you need to speak with parents. And I was very adamant about that to here today, right? I think that this is an issue that needs to be addressed within the phone. In terms of patches and stuff like that, that's a band-aid on stab wound, right? Like, all you're doing is you're masking.
Sorry,
Uh,
just 1 second. There's a YouTube glitch. Okay, sorry. Yes, go ahead. Is there something that you recommend that they can do? Because, like you said, they want like a quick fix. What can
yeah,
they?
that's the problem. They need to learn to delay gratification. The ability to delay gratification is the single number one indicator of success in any single area of your life. So looking at overcoming pornography addiction, like with a quick solution, is the problem. Like we're looking for everything instantaneously. That's the world that we live in. You're hungry, push a button, food gets delivered. You need a car, push a button, car shows up for you. So we live in this microwave society. So we need to learn to pursue hard things. We need to learn to delay gratification. So no, I don't think that there is a great fix. There's software accountabilities. We work with a company called Covenant Eyes that you can put so you can download this software. It puts a filter on your screen. It'll grab screenshots of what you consume throughout the day and it sends a report. So something like that would be similar to like a patch. But you know this because you're a coach. All successful transformation is rooted in an identity change. So if all we do is mask the problem, put a band-aid on it or put a filter on, but we don't change who we are and how we see ourselves, that's gonna lead us on a path of going somewhere else. So the proven solution is to go through the identity change. All successful transformation is rooted in an identity change, and that's what we do. That's what when I say the only way to overcome your pornography addiction is to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn. It's that becoming word that we're taking you through the identity change. But you could get like a Covenant Eyes to at least have a layer of protection for you.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Whenever they come to me for counseling, I'm like, we can give you videos, we can give you a lot of stuff, but we cannot fix it for you. You will need to do the hard work. You need to be patient. Like you said, minimum 90 days would be of course, it can happen earlier, but generally, is it 90 days?
Yeah, the real breakthrough that we see with guys that are being intentional and taking action every single day, it's usually in that 60 to 90 day window. Some guys it's a little bit sooner. We've had some incredible breakthroughs within the first 4 weeks. Some guys it takes a lot longer. I mean, I have a client right now I'm working with. He's been with us for 8 months, and we're still working through some things. So just understand that it's a process. You're on your own journey. Don't look at somebody else's recovery and be like, why did things happen for them faster? Because they did. Like that's his journey. You're on your journey. Trust the process and know that every day you take action towards it, you're becoming better. If we could look at this as a growth centric perspective, right? Like I'm doing this not because I'm a bad person, but I'm doing this because I want to become better. And in doing so, as long as I take one step forward every single day, I'm making progress and I'm developing skill sets. I'm developing a stronger belief system. I'm developing character traits. that not only are going to help me in tackling porn, but what I want the young men to know is the skill sets and identity and character traits that you develop in pursuing quitting porn are going to be the same skill sets, character traits, and belief systems that you're going to need to pursue anything meaningful in your life. So if you can understand that you're actually preparing yourself to become more successful in anything that you take on in this life, that should be very empowering to know, okay, I'm willing to trust this process and I'm willing to know that it's going to be a long time for me to overcome this.
Thank you so much, Frank. Really appreciated you and your wisdom and your guidance. And I have already posted the link that you gave me. Please let me know your YouTube channel. Later, you can give me all these links and any other resources which after the podcast, if you think can help, because I'm not very sure that everyone can afford your coaching, because Indians, most of them are kids and they cannot tell their parents. Even I do free of charge work just because of the very reason. So maybe your ebook and the other, maybe your videos can guide them and help them.
Yeah, and that's why I do as much. That's why I do as much free free work as possible. 14 videos on YouTube, very active on Instagram that you've seen. We have TikTok, we have a free Facebook group, and that 7-step guide. Like that's the book that has helped over 3,000 men in just the last 2+ years. So all of that is absolutely free. And then I have 132 podcasts that I've released on the Superhuman Life over the last 3 years as well. So there's a lot of valuable content for the listeners there as well.
So do you do only this, or even like relationships issues and all of it?
On the podcast, we get into everything. Yeah, the podcast, we have conversations in the 5 areas of life: faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom. So yeah, we'll address relationships, sex, marriage, mindset, business, entrepreneurship, health, biohacking, nutrition, spiritual faith, meditation, yoga. 133 episodes. There's something out there even for you.
Okay, nice. That sounds interesting. It was extremely fascinating speaking to you. Loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I got a lot of replies for you, but thank you so much. No questions, because I asked you all the questions that they wanted to ask.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you. Okay, guys, I need to take your leave. मुझे बाहर जाना है, और तुम लोगों ने तो आज कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा. तुम लोग के बजाय आई थिंक तुम लोग के बिहाफ पे मैंने काफी क्वेश्चंस पूछ लिए. जो मेन क्वेश्चंस हैं उनका चैनल फॉलो करो. आई होप तुमको समझ में आ गया है कि तुम्हें क्या करना है. वहां जाके सीखो हाउ टू गिव अप योर पॉर्न एडिक्शन. डॉक्टर ट्रिश को भी फॉलो करो. मैं जितना मदद कर सकती हूँ हिप्नोसिस से तो तुमको मदद कर ही रही हूँ. आई थिंक आई पोस्टेड इट इन डॉक्टर ट्रिश वाला पॉडकास्ट. अपना ध्यान रखो, अपनी जिंदगी बर्बाद मत करो. एंड आई विल सी यू ऑल सून. आई एम टेकिंग अ ब्रेक फ्रॉम संडे एंड थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा. 1 हफ्ता मुझे दो. आफ्टर अ लॉन्ग टाइम, फर्स्ट टाइम since March 2020, I am going to take a flight. So I mean, Indonesia में हूँ, but I'm just saying कि first time I'm going to travel. And अभी मुझे डिनर पे जाना है. As you know, I'm going to leave Jakarta shortly. So बहुत सारे डिनर्स हैं. And was lovely. I'm so happy to see काफी लोगों ने अटेंड किया, पर सब लोग काफी शांत थे. And a beautiful quote I remember from a short cycle: "You can't change time, but you can break the cycle." I'm glad Study Singh तुम एक्टिव थे. Study Singh, बाकी सब पता नहीं बहुत शांत थे आज. जैसे पता नहीं. आई नो तुम लोग के लिए ये बोल रहे पेरेंट्स के लिए टैबू टॉपिक है. तुम लोग भी तो कितने शर्माते हो. इनको तो हमारे कल्चर के बारे में थोड़ा नहीं पता ना, कि हम लोग इतना कैसे फील करते हैं जब हम बात करते हैं. इवन फॉर मी, आई हैड टू टॉक टू यू ऑल. आई हैड टू ब्रेक दिस शैकल्स ऑफ शर्मो लिहाज वाला, एम्बैरेसमेंट वाला थिंग. So I can understand how it is for you all also, because वो तो बोल रहे पेरेंट्स लोगों ने बात करना चाहिए उनकी. I agree completely. Yes, as a parent हमारी responsibility है, but तुम लोग भी कितना शर्माते हो ये जनरेशन होके, है कि नहीं. और हमारे पेरेंट्स से हमारा क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन हो सकता है. So anyway, yeah, my pleasure, Sean. Hi Deepak, hi HT and Study Singh, and whoever 20, 30 people and whoever is there on Zoom. Hi Prashant. Okay, I got to go. I'm sorry. My friends will kick my ass because आज उन्होंने बोला था जल्दी जल्दी फिनिश करके आओ. मेरे लिए उन्होंने डिनर थोड़ा पुश किया है, सो और मैं पॉडकास्ट कैंसिल नहीं कर सकती थी. इनका डेट मैं बहुत आई वॉज वेरी हैप्पी दैट आई गॉट समवन सो दैट देखो तुमको कोई भी है यू नो लाइक आई नो मेन प्रेफर मेन उनको गाइड करे, जाओ उनको फॉलो करो. होपफुली जिन जिनको कोई भी इशू चल रही है हमारे पॉडकास्ट की वजह से, आई होप कुछ लोगों की जिंदगी सुधर जाए. बच्चा लोग अपना ध्यान रखना. माय प्लेजर बच्चा लोग. एंड सी यू ऑल सून. मैं ना बाली से ट्राई करूंगी लाइव जाने का. बाय द वे मेरा बर्थडे वाला मैं बोल रही थी ना कि iPad आने वाला, वो आ गया. So I'm going to try to go live with my iPad. I don't know how stupid it will look like. पता नहीं स्टैंड है ऐसा सा, बट ऐसे पता नहीं, या तो फोन से जाऊंगी. Let's see. I'll try so that you can see part of Bali with me. मजा आएगा ना तुम लोग. पता नहीं, I'll just go ad hoc जब भी मेरे से मन करेगा. I'll go live and you guys can see what Bali looks like through my eyes. See you. मुझे थोड़ा बहुत बाल संवारने हैं, although ठीक लग रही है I think, but before leaving, and I shall see you all soon. अब मैं डायरेक्ट पॉडकास्ट एक इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक जो तुम लोग बहुत टाइम से मुझे बोल रहे हो ADHD पे, I found someone to talk on it. Fingers crossed that person is also from the US. I hope it works out, and let's try to get into the bottom of this because so many of y'all are facing this issue, and support me, help the channel grow. Why? Because we are trying to make a difference. We're trying to help so many people. और लाइक करो, सब्सक्राइब करो, कमेंट करो, थोड़ा सा टाइम निकालो, एक दूसरे के साथ शेयर करो, हेल्प करो एक दूसरे को. लेट्स ट्राई टू मेक अ बेटर कम्युनिटी, बेटर सोसाइटी, बेटर इंडिया. ओके, अब मैं चलूं. और कुछ नहीं लिखा ना, नहीं तो फिर बोलोगे नहीं व्लॉग मुझसे ना होगा. मेरे को व्लॉग नहीं, वो ऐसे 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 ना. आई एम टेलिंग यू, उस दिन मैं किसको देख रही थी, इवन वेदांत को से कि उससे व्लॉग नहीं होता. इवन आई थिंक प्रखर ऑल्सो. इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू, एंड यू नो व्लॉग तुम फिर भी ठीक है, तुम रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहे थे, उसका बाद का जो एडिटिंग होता है ना, इतना दिमाग खराब होता है ना, to put it all together. I don't know. I'm sure Ranveer Alavadia has got like a team of 5,000 people. क्योंकि इतना इजी नहीं है. मेरे टीम में मैं ही हूँ अकेले, एक इंसान का टीम है. खुद ही करना पड़ता है सब कुछ. सो रहने दो बा, तुम लोग मेरे को मुझे यही देख लो, ठीक है. आई एम यही मेरा ब्लॉग यही होगा तुम लोग के साथ. ओके, आई गॉट टू गो एंड आई शैल सी यू ऑल व्हेन आई कम बैक फ्रॉम, या तो बाली में या तो बाली के बाद. ठीक है, अपना ध्यान रखना. और एज यूजुअल कोई अगर से अर्जेंट है तो अर्जेंट मैसेज लिखना. इफ नॉट, मैं कोई चैट वैट नहीं पढ़ने वाली वो हफ्ते. ठीक है, चैट मतलब DMs क्वेश्चंस वाले. बाय.